Hello, this video is for IXL activity 8.B.3, and this activity is titled Absolute Value and Opposite Integers. And the 3-character code for this activity is Alpha, Bravo, Papa. So we talked about absolute value in lesson 1.4, and we learned that absolute value is all about the distance from 0 on a number line. So any number that you find on the number line, look at its distance from 0, and that is its absolute value. So on the first one, it says, what is the absolute value of -8? Well, if I have a number line, and on that number line, I have a place for 0, and then down here, because every number, all the values to the left of 0 are negative, so here I have 0, and everything to the left is negative, and -8 is down here. The question is, what is the distance from -8 to 0? Well, in this case, it's 8 units, right? So it would be 8 units from -8 back to 0. So the distance from 0 for -8 is +8. Remember, distance can't be negative, so it's always going to be a positive number. The shortcut is that it's just whatever the number is without a negative sign. If it's positive, it stays positive. And if it's negative, then it becomes positive because, well, distance is always positive. So on the next one, if I had a number line, this time it's absolute value of 95. Remember, the symbol here is absolute value, and it's all about distance. What is it from here to here, if you want to look at it that way? What's the distance between the two lines? So we know we're talking about distance. So in this case, we know that it's absolute value by this symbol. So if I have a place for 0 here, and down here I have 95, this is 0. Well, what's the distance between the two? Well, to get back to 0, you would have to go 95 units. So the absolute value for 95 is 95. So just like I said, it's the same number, but if it's positive, in this case it stays positive, and over here it was negative, and it becomes positive. Let's look at our next page here. Now it's opposites, and we learned in lesson 1.4 that by definition that an opposite of a number is another number that has the same absolute value of that number. So the absolute value of 4 equals 4. Well, what is the absolute value of some other number that equals 4? Well, in this case it would be -4. So the idea is that in order to find the opposite of a number, if it's positive, then its opposite is negative, and it's the same absolute value. And if it were negative, the opposite of -4 would be +4. They both have the same absolute value, just opposite signs. So what's the opposite of -6? Well, if I take -6, its absolute value is 6. So what other number could I have that would also have the absolute value of 6? And that would be +6. So our answer is +6. Like, is it really that easy, Mr. T? Indeed, it is. This is probably one of the easier ones we'll have over the year. What's the opposite of 0? Well, remember 0 is neither negative nor positive. So the opposite of 0 is just, well, 0. Opposite of -31, same value. It's just positive. What's the absolute value of -23? Well, if we take the absolute value of -23, we know that number just kind of comes out, and it becomes positive if it were negative. If it were positive, we'd just keep it positive. What's the absolute value of -38? It's +38. And our last 3 questions, I'm distracted by my own note here. Absolute values are always positive, which is one of the key points that we're making, that I'm trying to make in this lesson. So what is the absolute value of -515? It's +515. What's the absolute value of 802? It's 802. It's always going to be positive because, well, distance can't be negative, and absolute value is all about distance. What is the absolute value of -7? +7. So there you have it. Those are all my examples for IXL 8.B.3, absolute value and opposite integers. Good luck with your activity.